I was just going to have something to back me because this is a very important part of the conference is to thank our sponsors. Whenever I went to conferences before and I heard the spiel of, oh, thanks to our sponsors, blah, 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 I thought it was kind of boring as an audience member, but they really do make this thing work. So really, I think it's important to make sure that they get as much airtime and thanks from us as possible. I want to thank the staff as well for putting this together. Again, this is I think you can see this is a pretty big crowd here, big building. We got all the stuff going on with the sponsors, the demos, the posters, the presentations, the food, the banquet, all that stuff. It doesn't happen without our support, our staff basically, which is myself, Tom Rondeau, but more importantly, we have Ben Hilburn, Martin Braun, Jonathan Corrigan, Michael Dickens on the steering committee. Michael, would you please stand up? I really want to give him a huge round of applause for leading this. Coordinate a lot of stuff for the conference, and you might have noticed the rapidity with which presentations were going online right after talks were happening, and all the websites being managed, so just kind of an awesome response. If it was left up to me, you'd see presentations getting put online right before GRCon 16, because I would have been like, yeah! So, because that's actually what happened in the video before. So thanks for, and then Jose Hora, for helping us with our sponsor kind of coordination. So please be in touch next year too if you saw this and want to be more involved, more active to help us out, sponsor, volunteers, all this stuff. Our student volunteers are fantastic. Turned out we didn't really need them as much as I thought we did, but I really appreciated them coming out early and staying late to help whatever. So just a few things to wrap up and kind of a philosophical moment. The kind of unofficial theme of the conference from my perspective was I really feel like as a community, as a product, student radio has proven itself. I mean, when we plugged into Arecibo and controlled the satellite, that honestly to me that was just like, okay, well we're done. I mean, not done developing, but thought it's like this is like we're there. So this conference, it's why I brought a guy like Joe Matola to talk about crazy ideas. NSF and DARPA guys talking earlier in the week about all the cool new things that can come. I loved our sponsors' talks in the mornings at SDRS and ADI showing some really amazing stuff technologically coming out. So the kind of theme is what we're doing as a community to look forward and how do we grow these ideas and make use of all this really new cool stuff that's happening in the world. So I wanted these things, and I think they did a good job of generating people's thoughts and ideas and excitement for what the technology is allowing us to do. So on that, take that a notch about this whole FCC thing. I have been threatening every now and then for this conference to try to pull in like a regulatory policy aspect, where we tend to be geeks. And you just saw a great example of the hacker culture that still pervades our community, which is fantastic. But we are growing and developing, and there's new opportunities, and there's a bigger spotlight on the products, in radio, on software radio. Every week we have a new hacking story, and some of those hacking stories are hacking wireless systems. Look closely at those press releases, look closely at those pictures, and you'll see some interesting images that you might be familiar with after this week. So that's going to bring scrutiny, and I think we're seeing that with these new rules. So we might still try to move in that direction. I think it's kind of important to keep an eye on it. I'm not entirely sure what we're going to do about it yet, but the perspective is just that I have right now is to keep an eye on things and to keep that going. It was a good talk this afternoon, though. I just want to relay this FCC talk we had with the New America Foundation. It turns out, I don't think it affects us technologically, at least Student Radio and our community of software radio developers, yet. I think the manufacturers might want to, look a little bit closer at it if you're doing like more commercial-oriented radios that the FCC would regulate. There might be something there to look at. From what we've heard, there's already, the language revisions are already in process because they realized that they made a little bit overbroad statements within the notice of proposed rulemaking. And they also got the final date for comments extended from September 8th to I think October 8th or October 9th. So there's time to talk to them, and they're very receptive. As I mentioned, I guess Monday when we talked about it, that I'm actually quite a fan of the FCC because of people that I know there. People that have interacted with the Office of Engineering Technologies, they're actually really good people who care a lot about this world of spectrum and management. We might not agree with how they go about it, but they are trying to do the best they can, and they are also very receptive to our comments and our perspective on things. The biggest concern that we have with regulation, I think, in our community is not so much that it's going to affect what we do. It's not going to affect USERVs, it's not going to affect getting radio so much as it might have a chilling effect on everybody looking at this. There might be a little bit of a scare, factor associated with that. So that I think is the biggest concern with something like this. So like I said, not entirely sure what I'm going to do about this in the future for getting radio as a conference. Like I said, we're tech people, we're hackers, we're professionals. Some of us more one than the other. Martin. But anyway, so that will be on my mind. Last thing, GRCon 16 is honestly, from a development perspective of a conference, GRCon 16 is almost upon us. It's likely to be in Boulder, Colorado. The University of Colorado Boulder has been fairly active in pushing their kind of desire to host it, and that's pretty compelling when somebody's like pushing you to host a conference there. That's pretty cool and pretty compelling. So it's likely there. We haven't said anything in stone yet. We'll take feedback from the community as usual, but that's what we're looking at. So hopefully September of next year in Colorado. And if somehow we get to Vail, I will push it farther into colder parts of the year, because. Yeah, I mean, I don't know why, but going to Vail in winter has some benefit for some people. Those are the notes that I had for wrapping things up today. So I guess one last round of applause and one last thanks to all of our speakers, presenters, the working group sessions and the working group leaders and everybody that helped contribute to this thing. And I hope you got a lot out of all of the talks and all of the interaction here. So please, one last round of applause for the speakers. And with that, we wrap up the technical conference. I hope to see many of you tomorrow at the Hackfest. We're just going to take over this room, put out your radios, put out your computers, and we'll go crazy. So everybody have a good night.
Can we get a show of hands for tomorrow?
Show of hands for the Hackfest tomorrow.
Show of hands for the Hackfest tomorrow.
Looks like half, a little more than half the crowd maybe, which is great.
Okay, awesome.
Awesome.
Thank you, brother. Applause for Tom! Applause for Tom!